In Ephesians 5:28 through 29, God tells your husband to love you as his own body. Then he told him why he's supposed to do it. Because this is how you love yourself as a man, by loving her as a woman. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hates his own flesh, but provides and cares for it. If you don't feel that kind of love, you can't point it out. Because the only way you can point out when someone's doing something wrong is to judge them or criticize them. As mothers, we tell our children because we have to correct them. It's called mothering. But as a woman in relationship with a grown man, you can't do that. That's emasculation. And you put him at a disadvantage towards you. So what do? You don't talk. You feel. There's the command that comes from God to the man. Love your wife. But on the other side of that command sits the receiver of the command. And that's you, the woman. And although we're told not to judge, God never says don't feel. You might not know why someone is doing something, or in this case, why you're not experiencing that kind of love from your husband, but you do know how your heart feels. With all that estrogen, you have the ability to feel first, then respond. So here's the thing. When your husband isn't cleaving to you, that means there's nothing to feel, because there's nothing coming towards your heart. You can't give anything back because you have nothing to respond with. You can't receive or reject. I don't mean you won't. I mean you can't. It's not possible. A woman is created as the Ezer Neged, positionally in front of the man. She's not under his feet or above him. And please, this is the worst one. She's not beside him either. God chose the word neged to positionally place his feminine creature facing masculinity, squarely and straight on. This way, she can be who she was created to be, a reflection like a mirror. The feminine takes whatever it is she receives in front of her from masculinity and responds to him by reflecting it back on him. As a wife, you do this through your actions and behaviors, not with words that are going to make him feel corrected. That means if you don't feel cleaved to, don't pretend. If all he's giving you is breadcrumbs and they don't feel good, don't consume them and don't pretend they feel good to your heart. When you've examined the reality of how you feel inside your heart and you get honest with God about how you feel, you'll be able to respond authentically. You'll be able to respond exactly the way he himself has set the example for you to follow. Isn't that amazing? There's an example for wives to follow in 1 Peter 3, verse 7. You become the embodiment of the consequence that God has set out for the husband who doesn't love his wife by cleaving to her the way God has commanded him to. God's inviting you to help save the man. Helper means saver, not server. This is a really interesting turn of events for wives. In 1 Peter 3:7, the text reads, "Husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, as with a weaker partner, showing them honor as co-heirs of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered." Here's the thing though, that word akopto is used 11 times in other places, and for every other time they've translated it, they didn't use the English word hindered or any variation of hindered, like delayed or slowed or deferred or stalled or stuck, which is what the English translations have done. The translators only see it from a masculine perspective. It blinds them to the truth and gravity of God's intention. Akopto means something really serious. In those other instances, it's always translated as cut off, cut out, cut away or cut down. A better translation of God's intention towards a husband would be, your prayers will be cut off, cut down, cut away. We really don't understand just how much God values the femininity He placed inside His daughters. He's telling husbands, if you ignore her heart, I will ignore you. If you don't treat her the way I'm telling you to, I will not listen to anything you say or ask. I will cut you down. It's a serious sin against you. If your husband's not cleaving to you, it's a big deal. And it's a sin that's being completely ignored. Every time you hear marriage teaching that tells you to continue in submission and respect, no matter how the man treats you or talks to you, what the church is teaching you is to allow him to continue sinning against you and to absorb it into your body. This is how a wolf in sheep's clothing will use breadcrumbing to trick you, and Christian marriage teaching tells you to let him do it. Breadcrumbing is the opposite of being considered first. It's the opposite of being loved on and cherished, cared for, and provided for. Breadcrumbing is the visible proof and demonstration that masculinity is either oblivious to femininity or he hates it and is actively withholding all of the contribution that's owed to you inside of marriage. Cutting him off is usually a euphemism we hear about women withholding sex. But according to those consequences, that's what God warns the man about, being cut off away from God. He says it's not about sex. It's about experiencing the consequences of not cleaving to his wife. If you're not being cleaved to, you respond the same way the Lord does. You cut away from him. It's called leaning away or leaning back from the relationship. It's your door of escape inside of marriage. You create space and distance between you and the offender. If you want to learn how to create space and distance between yourself and your husband when he sins against you, I have 2 videos that can help you learn how to do that. I'll put them in the cards and in the description box for you. In both of those videos, I talk about how to maintain the balance of still doing all the domestic functions for the role of a wife, like keeping the division of labor intact so the family can still function, but at the same time maintaining your dignity and self-respect by leaning back away from the man when he won't repent so that he can reconcile to be in friendship with you again. The first one is called Healing Your Femininity Part 2, and the other is called How to Walk Away in Marriage Without Leaving. Bye for now.